Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was without a doubt the greatest criminal mastermind of the second half of the 20th century. The patron of evil managed to terrorize Colombia with his narco-terrorist acts. Pablito was one of the most wanted traffickers in the world, but also one of the richest. According to Forbes magazine, he was the 7th richest man in the world. Part of Medellin Cartel leader's fortune was invested in luxury apartments and land. The most significant was the Hacienda Napoles, which on its 492 hectares housed one of the most impressive zoos in South America, housing rhinos, lions, giraffes, and hippopotamuses, and in which 1,500 people worked. But in addition, the cocaine czar also collected vehicles. It should be noted that among his hobbies was motor racing. He even competed in the Renault, Porsche and Marlboro Cup. Among Pablo Escobar's cars, one could find conventional cars, sports cars, SUVs, classics, and real luxury cars. Porsche 356. It is one of the most sought-after cars by collectors. By all accounts, the Porsche 356 was Don Pablo's favorite. Although he initially complained about its low power, his unit, of which 76,313 were produced between 1948 and 1965, had a boxer engine that developed 75 horsepower. The 356 was the brand's first production vehicle, after developing the Volkswagen Beetle. Herr Ferdinand delegated to his son Ferry the conception of the brand that would bear his surname. Together with Karl Rabe and Erwin Commenda, began in 1947 the project of a two-seater sports car on the Volkswagen and called Project Number 356. The result was a four-seater rear-engined car mounted on a tubular chassis, derived from the Volkswagen. It was a brilliant piece of work, which summed up the essence of the brand for all of history. The rear-engine configuration served as the basis for generations of Porsche models. Mercedes 300 SL Roadster. The convertible version of the famous Gullwings was also one of Pablo Escobar's cars. It was the first car to be equipped with a direct injection gasoline engine. It was one of the most successful sports models in the world, and especially in the United States. Max Hoffman, importer of Mercedes and many other brands for the United States at the time, pressured the German house to manufacture a 300 SL Roadster, and thus was born 60 years ago the Mercedes 300 SL Roadster. It had a 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine developing 215 horsepower. Mercedes engineers had created a dynamically spectacular car. While the Gullwing suffered from a funny and at the time dangerous tendency to oversteer, the Roadster managed to compensate and turn it into a small tendency to understeer that made it more effective and at the time safe for the time. Mercedes 600 Pullman. Also known as the Great Mercedes, it was born in Germany in the 50s. This vehicle breathed luxury. The Duro could go inside with great comfort. It was equipped with the 6.3-liter V8, capable of delivering 247 horsepower and 500 Nm. Figures, thanks to which it won the title of most powerful Mercedes car in the post-war period. For a reason, it was also the car of choice for Coco Chanel, Elizabeth Taylor, Hugh Hefner, John Lennon, George Harrison, Aristotle Onassis, and Jack Nicholson. Mercedes produced the 600 range between 1963 and 1981, and the limousine variants proved very popular with officials of different governments, particularly in Germany. In addition to the 4-door model, 6-door variants were also produced. Until production ceased, total production of the Mercedes 600 amounted to 2,677 units, of which only 429 possessed the long Pullman chassis. Rolls-Royce Phantom 1. By all accounts, the Rolls-Royce Phantom 1 was the vehicle that Escobar had the hardest time getting. It was created between 1925 and 1931 to replace the Silver Ghost. We don't know if Pablo Escobar's car was produced in Derby, UK or in Massachusetts, USA. There were differences between the two. Apart from the changes in the engine, The European one had a longer wheelbase than the American one and a 4-speed gearbox against the 3-speed US one. Its development was carried out in the utmost secrecy, under the codename Eastern Armored Car. This suggested that Rolls-Royce intended to produce a vehicle similar to those that had been used by great figures in World War I. The Phantom 1 was an instant success. Its new 7.7-liter inline 6-cylinder engine gave it an unusual liveliness. When General Motors opened a test track in Michigan, it discovered that no car could complete 2 laps, about 13 kilometers in total, at full throttle without damaging the part of the engine where the pistons meet the crankshaft. Yet, the Phantom 1, in a demonstration of consummate dominance, was able to do that, and much more, at over 120 kilometers per hour, or 75 miles per hour, without failure. Renault 4. Among Pablo Escobar's cars was the modest white Renault 4. With this French car, manufactured in Envigado, Colombia, El Capo made his first illicit trips to Ecuador. With one like this, he competed in the Renault Cup. It is one of the most emblematic cars in the history of Renault, whose popularity allows it to be remembered as one of the best-selling vehicles in the world. After its launch in 1961, the R4 managed to sell 8 million units in more than 100 countries over 30 years. Undoubtedly, its great success was due to its innovative solutions in terms of design, modularity, mechanics, and performance. 1930s Cadillac. Among the most extravagant luxuries that the famous character came to have are in his fleet of cars. Some that could have come to Al Capone himself, a famous and feared American gangster who dominated crime in New York during the 20s and 30s. In his Naples estate, a shot 1933 Pontiac was found that supposedly belonged to the American gangster. On the other hand, a Univision report numbering the criminal's car collection attributes a 1930s Cadillac that also belonged to Al Capone himself. It is said that the Colombian was a fan of the gangster. He himself publicly denied having bought the Cadillac from Al Capone. It was a 1930s model with an impressive 16-cylinder V engine, and was supposedly continuously equipped with a machine gun. Escobar confessed that he obtained it in Medellin and shot it several times. Toyota Land Cruiser. Pablo Escobar bought his private army a multitude of Toyota Land Cruisers. Its enormous off-road capacity made Escobar opt for this 4x4 to move through the most difficult terrain in Colombia. It's said that his team was trained with this vehicle, so they were continually replaced. In the aforementioned Hacienda Napoles, now Museo Casa Pablo Escobar or Pablo Escobar House Museum, 2 signs read, Pablo Escobar's luxurious car collection was a symbol of his ostentation and leadership in the underworld, and the first to suffer the consequences of his multiple wars. All that remains is the scrap metal and the story it tells. And, thanks to his enormous illicit fortune, he would have one of the largest car collections in the world. It ended up in ruins like everything from Escobar. And so it was. Because most of his vehicles were razed to the ground after the explosion of a car bomb in January 1988 in the Monaco building, or destroyed by Los Pepes, persecuted by Pablo Escobar, who burned several of his cars stored in a garage in Medellin. Too bad, because it was a collection valued at $275 million. Moreover, after his death in 1993, the government confiscated his assets.